Hi everybody, it's Megan Reeds and I'm here to, yes, you guessed it, talk all about books. This is the third week of my October reading and I'm super excited to talk about my first book this week that I have read, and that is Stay Awake by Megan Goldin. Oh, it was good. Bitches. It was so good. I loved it. I thought it was a really good book. I've never read from this author before, but I have actually heard of her before, so I'm definitely going to check out her other works down the road. But this was really good. I really enjoyed it. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about and are like, Stay Awake, what is that? Well, the main character in this book, her name is Liv Reese, and she wakes up, started the book, in a cab. She goes to her house. She's tired. She's a little disoriented. And she goes to her building where she shares an apartment with her best friend, Amy. She's shared an apartment with her for over 5 years. She knocks on the door. It's late at night, 2, 3 in the morning. She doesn't even know why she's out so late. She's just thinking maybe I drank too much, or I don't know why I'm having this moment. She knocks on the door and she expects Amy to answer. I mean, who else could it possibly be? Except Amy doesn't answer, and these two other people do, this couple. And they basically tell Liv, we live here. We've lived here for years. We have no idea who Amy is, and we definitely don't know who you are, and you definitely don't live here. So she's disoriented and she's confused. She remembers her life very well. She remembers being a successful writer. She ends up going the next day to her business, and they say that she doesn't work there. She hasn't worked there in over 2 years. Also, she notices something very strange. New York, which is where this book takes place, seems different. Not only does it seem different, but she's remembering it in July, where it's hot and the trees look different and everything is in bloom. And she's realizing, wait a minute, it's freezing cold. It's about November in New York. Where did the time go? What the hell's going on? And then she looks down and she sees things written all over her hands. Names, places, directions, and in big letters, Stay Awake is written all over her. Do not go to sleep, more or less. That's what's being told to her. So, needless to say, she's just a little freaked out, just a tad. Also, she goes into her coat pocket and she can't find her IDs. She can't find her credit card. She doesn't have a purse. She doesn't have a phone. And she finds, what do you think she finds? Come on, people. Gotta be something creepy, right? She finds a bloody knife. She has no idea where it came from. She has no idea if she committed this horrible crime. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. This book is told in different perspectives, from Liv's perspective now in what's going on in the present. It's also told from 2 years prior of what led up to Liv not remembering things. More or less, she has lost her memory and she has this medical condition and she's had it for a while, and it's basically figuring out why, what caused it, and you're going back into her life 2 years before, seeing what culminated into this moment where she is now. And also, you're also taking the perspective of detectives, two detectives, Detective Holiday and Detective Lavelle, haha, Detective Lavelle. And they are investigating a crime that they get called to. And when they go to the crime, there's a guy laying in the bed, dead as a doornail, one straight into the chest, not a lot of blood. They're assuming he was drugged first. He has no ID on him, no nothing. But one thing that is there that is a little odd is, in big letters written in blood to be seen outside the window, is Stay Awake, which is the same thing written on Liv's arms and all over her body. So we're basically trying to find out the entire book. What happened to Liv? Did she murder somebody? And if she did murder somebody, who is this person? And what happened to her 2 years prior to cause all of this? What put this all in motion? It was good. It was so good. So amazing. I enjoyed reading it. Actually, it's weird. I am a book person. I am a physical book person. I am a Kindle person. One thing that I've never been really big into is audiobooks. And I actually, even though I own the physical copy of this book, excuse me, just had dinner, a little burp. Even though I own this physical copy of this book. I actually listened to it on audiobook, and the narrator was amazing. I was so into it. It's been a very long time since I've read a whole book in one sitting, or I've read a whole book in one day, especially because, you know, life gets busy and crazy, and sometimes we just can't do that. And I was able to read this book in multiple sittings, but in one day. I was doing the dishes and I was doing everything, and I was like, now I understand what everybody talks about, how amazing it is to do things like this. So I really loved it. I love the book. I love the mystery of this book. I love the back and forth. Also, this book is told when Liv is speaking. It's told in hours. Like, this is 11 hours, 6 hours, 10:13 at night, 3 a.m. because that's how every time she goes to sleep, she kind of forgets things. So it's told in time, which makes it very easy to follow. I loved Liv's character. I thought she was really dynamic. I really liked her. I really liked the detectives. I liked Detective Holiday and Detective Lavelle very much. I thought they were really good and thrown out. I liked her friend Amy and Marco. In the audiobook, the girl that did Marco's voice, like the Italian voice, was really good. She was freaking great. This was such a good book. I've had it for a while now. I actually got it, I want to say 2 months ago. So I'm so excited that I finally got to read it for spooky ween areas. Now, is it horror? Yes, it's definitely horror. It's definitely creepy vibes. It's really big mystery, really big thriller. I am a thriller bitch. That's just who I am. I love thriller books. I love mysteries. I enjoy trying to figure it out before. I'm sorry, I'm yawning. Today is one of those days. I've been meaning to do this video for like 4 hours, and then it was dinner and putting my baby to bed, and now it's way later than it was, and I am tired, but I am trying to do this review. Damn it, I'm gonna do it. It's good. It's a good book. I loved all the characters. I thought they were really interesting. I loved the reveals. The ending almost got me. It did, okay? I'm listening to the audiobook and I'm like, I don't know who the hell did this shit. I don't know. We got a couple people. It could possibly be very interesting the way everything was laid out. I really enjoyed. And the last like 15 pages, I was like, haha, I remembered something from earlier, and I caught something literally like this much before the main character caught it. And I was like, proud of myself today. Did it. Very exciting. This book was great. It was definitely horror. It was definitely spooky. It was great for October. Very excited, but I would have read this no matter if it was October or not. Like I said, I'm a thriller chick. This is how it is. Thrillers and mysteries are what you're going to see predominantly on this channel, with detective books thrown in and some literary fiction, because I do like literary fiction. And I'm getting back into romance, so there will be some of that, but thriller and mystery, that's my bread and butter. That's what I like far more than anything else. But I would highly, highly recommend this book. Check it out. I would be showing you a picture of the book, but it's in my purse. And my purse, I just now remembered, is in my car. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go get that later. Night's never over. So I'm just gonna put up a picture of it, but I did have the physical book, so sorry. But I would highly recommend it. This is the first book of this week, so I really hope that you enjoyed it, and we're gonna come back soon. You're gonna see me in the next clip, whichever one shows, of me talking about the next book. What's the next book? That's what you want to know. I don't know. There's some options. Now that I'm a little obsessed with audiobooks, I have all my physical books and or my Kindle books, and now I'm trying to get a specific book on audio. And if I can, then I do know what I'm reading, but we will see. I will update you in the next clip and tell you if that was the book I read, the one that I plan to read next. But either way, this was a knockout out of the park for me for my first book in this thing. So I'm having a day. But really good book. Stay Awake by Megan Golden. Check it out. And I will see you in the next clip. Bye. Hi everybody, here I am back again to talk about the next book that I read. It was so friggin' good. I swear I'm like in a roll right now with like reading good books. I don't think this month I have read one bad book yet. I say that and watch like the next one will be like a 1 or something because like I'll hate it so much or something. But so far it's been pretty good. The book that I just finished, was Theme Music by T. Marie Vandelay. It was really good. It wasn't super long. It was 402 pages. It was a really interesting book. I really enjoyed it. It was horror, like severe horror. I recommend this book to many people, but look at me, okay? All right. If you're squeamish, if you're somebody that extreme brutality and or lots of blood really bother your stomach, make you feel sick, and or, I'm sorry, but I have to be honest here, if you are triggered by the deaths of young people, children especially, obviously, I would not read this book because they do talk about that quite a bit. Now, there's a plot. There's a reason why that's all discussed. It's not just violence for the sake of being violence and gratuitous for the sake of it. It all does make sense to the plot and what the story is about, which is on the synopsis. So I would like to believe if you picked this book up, you had read the synopsis and kind of realized, oh, this is going to be a little on the brutal side of things. This is probably one of the more brutal books that I've read this month. My first book that I read like a couple weeks ago, that was pretty brutal at the beginning of October, but this is pretty there, so I'm just preparing you for that beforehand. But it's really good. The plot was really good. I found it interesting, very scary, very horror vibes, blood, gore, psychological thriller elements. It was really good. But let's get into what it's actually about so you have a better idea of what it is. I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself in the camera and I am having a little bit of a breakout today, so sorry if this is a little much, but this is a no makeup day and I am doing this review very quickly while my husband feeds our son dinner tonight, so I could do this review because I read this book, like I finished it like 7 hours ago. Thank God I take notes. Thank God I take notes. That helps all the time. But let's get into it. This book is Theme Music, like I said, by T. Marie Vandelay. And the main character here is Dixie Wheeler. She is about 27 years old. And she's got a really fucked up past. Not gonna lie. 25 years ago, just about, she was found in her house on Thanksgiving Day, and her entire family was brutally murdered. Her 3 brothers and her mother, aging from 15, the oldest brother, to 4, the youngest brother, were brutally murdered by their father. They were killed with an axe and hacked up into little pieces. Unfortunately, some of them lost their heads. That's how bad and gruesome this situation was. She was found in her high chair with some Cheerios, blood all around her, and she was the only one saved in her entire family. After her father got done killing her other siblings and her mother, he then took a butcher knife to his throat, and that's all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen, for that. She has been dealing with the outcome of that her entire life. She was 18 months old when it happened, so she doesn't remember her family at all. For her, it's this horror story she's been told for most of her life, but she doesn't really feel the connection. She doesn't know much. She's actually seen very few pictures. She ended up living with her father's sister, who 100% believed he was guilty and never talked about him, rarely even showed pictures of the family members because he didn't want to upset her or make her feel sad that she had lost more or less her entire family in one go. So that's sad enough. That's horrible enough for anybody, especially she was 18 months old. Now she is 27 years old. So she's a grown up now, living on her own. She has a boyfriend named Garrett, and they have been looking for quite some time to buy a house. Now, shock, dum da dum da dum. What goes on sale but the Wheeler family home, which is the home that her family was brutally murdered in, and it was her first ever home. She didn't know the home was even still standing. That's how less she knows about everything. Even growing up, her aunt kept a really strict tight hold on her internet activity and everything. So she didn't even know if the house was still standing. She asked about it once, and her aunt made a comment like nothing's there. So she just assumed that the house was gone altogether because it was such a horrific event. They kind of thought, who would ever want to live there? So they maybe bulldozed the property. They didn't bulldoze the property, and she sees it online, and it's obviously going for way under budget for the neighborhood because they have to explain basically what had happened there, which is true. When you do sell a property, the property agent does have to tell you like what has happened in the house before, so you do know, so they're not liable. So that part was 100% true. I know that from like my family and stuff buying houses over the years. And she goes and she looks at the house. She doesn't tell the realtor like who she is, anything. Her name was never released to the public. They only called her Baby Blue. And they called her Baby Blue in the news reports and everything because there was a song playing very loudly when she was rescued. When she was found, I should say, because her father didn't try to kill her. She was left there as the only surviving member of her family. So that's what she's known as. Nobody knows her real name is Dixie. Nobody knows a lot of stuff. There wasn't a lot of news coverage about her. Her aunt shielded her from so much of that, thankfully. So she's had a pretty good, like, down, low-key life for the most part, considering how horrible, what happened to her was and her family. She goes to the house, she looks at it, she falls in love with it, more or less, and she swears she sees her family members. She sees glimpses in the corner of her eyes, and she wonders. And a part of her feels, I should come back here. This was my home. This was robbed from me. What happened, what my father did. This is where my brothers, who I never got the pleasure to know, this is where they lived. This is where they also died. This is where my mother lived. I don't have any memories of my mother. And I feel a connection here. She does not tell her fiance what's going on. They're about to get the house. Everything's about to happen. And she tells him, and he basically pulls out and is like, look, you want this is for you, fine, we'll stay together, but I'm not moving into this house. So she moves into this house, and weird things start to occur. She starts seeing things, she starts feeling things differently. Her emotions are heightened. She also decides to look into the case because she wants to know more information. She finds she talks to the cop that was in charge, Stanley Collins, and he's retired now, and she gets pictures of the crime scene from one of her deceased uncles. It was in paperwork that he had left in his house, and she's realizing some things don't add up. She's starting to contemplate, did my father even do this? Maybe he didn't, maybe it was somebody else. The investigation seemed pretty like one track, it had to be you, and she's wondering if it is or not. She's starting to get bad vibes in the house. Not dangerous vibes because she knows it's her family there and a part of her feels safe, but some weird things start happening. People start going missing, and she starts wondering, what's going on here? Did I do something to these people, or is the ghost of my father here? There's all these things of trying to figure it out, what it could be. And as she goes there, she's trying to really learn what happened to her family 25 years ago, and more importantly, why it happened. Because everybody says that her father was normal, great, funny, nice, amazing guy, and one day he just snapped. Also, when she moves into this house, love this, she gets from her uncle all of the old furniture. So it's like living in 1992, like all the old furniture, all the old everything. And the creepy vibe of this book is up super fucking high. It's so creepy, it's so scary. There's gratuitous violence when they talk about how the family members died. At one point, one of the brothers actually had his head taken off, and he was very young. He was 8 years old. So there's obviously some violence and talking about it. And she's grown up with this her whole life. This communication, this kind of stigma around everything that she's ever done. So she makes light of it in many ways, which I don't know if somebody would appreciate or not. I kind of understand, because if you grew up like that, if your life was literally a horror story, you would probably make light of certain situations, especially for her, like, she didn't know them. As messed up as it is of her making light of some of the horrible things that had befallen her family, it's like reading about it about somebody else, because she has no idea who these people even were in reality. But she wants to find out more. She wants to find out the why, the how. She starts seeing things in the house, like I said, so she is wondering if it is haunted. She does get a lot of answers, lots of questions come up. I thought it was done really well. I thought it was a really good book. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I listened to it in audiobook, and I love the audiobook lady. She was really great. And I also read it on Kindle. So I had both experiences, and both experiences were really good. Is it horror? Oh yeah. It's fucking horror. There's no way around it. It's a bloodbath of horror, man. It's in your face. It doesn't hide anything. You know, you kind of want to do this at some points, like just kind of look out like this, because some of this shit is so frigging scary, especially flashback scenes. There's a lot of her dad, quote unquote, like talking kind of like in her head, and that's terrifying. Like the voices that are being used, so you can tell by the even like how it's written. I read the audiobook too, so the tone is like, I would suggest if you could do this, reading a physical and audio, you get a totally different vibe, like all together, because in the audio, when there's voices and stuff, you hear it in a very distinctive, like, other male voice, and it's very fucking jarring and scary. But overall, I thought this was really good. I did really enjoy the characters. Dixie is a lot. As a main character, she's not the sweetest, she's not the nicest, she's not the most disarming. She's just 100% who she is. And she's gone through a lot of trauma in her life, so there's parts of her, like I said, that's very like honest about it and very blunt. Yeah, that's what I would say. I would say she's a very blunt person. She doesn't have much that she holds like dear, except for probably her boyfriend Garrett. I liked everybody. You know who I liked the most? I really liked the cop, the retired cop with his little dogs and stuff. I found him amazing. I found him really sweet. I thought he leveled the story back to like the realistic setting, because he was the cop talking about what had happened all those years ago, and he was the lead on that case. So hearing things from him, his perspective, was really interesting. I found Dixie at times a little whiny. A little bit, but just a little bit. I don't have to love a main character for me to love the book. Actually, sometimes I can hate the main character and still be like, this is a good story aside from her, or understand why she is the way she is, which I did understand, like I said, so it wasn't too bad. Hearing what happened to the siblings was really horrible and turned my stomach pretty much, but that was the job, so it did do exactly what it was supposed to do. So I give it kudos there. I like Garrett, the boyfriend. I thought he was really good. I don't think there was any character that I hated. Like even the ones that I didn't like personally, as like they were being an asshole or whatever, which was how they were written to be. So it was all intentional, obviously. Everyone had a part to play in it, and I think everybody did a damn good job playing the part. So I thought it was really good. 402 pages. I read this in 2 days. So it was really good. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it, but like I said, caution. It's brutal at aspects. So if you're into that, which I am with a lot of my horror books, I like the violence. It's horror. So I kind of expect there to be body horror as well most times, and there is. But I would recommend it. It's very good for this month. Very October vibes. Not gonna lie. But that is it. As I cough. That is it for now. I'll be back in the next clip with another book. It'll probably be my last book of this week, I'm going to assume, but you never know. But I'm pretty sure, because I'm actually going away this weekend, so I don't think I'll have time to do like even more. And this should be coming out on Friday anyway, so it'll work out just fine. For one more book, it'll take me a couple days to read something else. Do I know what I'm reading? No. I have an idea of what I'm reading, but I'm going to see more or less what I'm in the mood for to start tomorrow, because this was pretty brutal. So I don't know if I want to go with something just as brutal, because there's something on my list that's kind of like this in the brutality. But I will see. And you will see me in the next clip talking about the next book, and hopefully these little breakouts are better. But if not, here I am. See you next time. Bye. Hi everybody, I am back to talk about our last book this week. It was so good. I read Gallows Hill this week by Darcy Coates. I love Darcy Coates. This is the third book I think that I read from her, and every single time I read a book from her, I swear to God, it's amazing. Every single one. She does horror in such an interesting way. I'm never bored. I'm always excited for whatever I'm about to read, and her stories, although always extremely horror vibes, always have something a little different in each one. So you never exactly know what you're going to get. I love her characters. I always do. And this was no exception. The main character in this book, I really, really, really liked. This book was so much fun. It was 378 pages. So it was almost 400 pages. I read this in a Kindle edition, and I also read it through audiobook. Chef's kiss, highly recommend. I thought the writing was done really well. I thought the horror aspects were done so friggin' well. It was such a good time, such a good ride. I loved the entire story. I loved the plot. I love the horror aspects because they were plentiful. They were plentiful and they were fun, and I absolutely love them. But let's get into what this book is actually about, because if you don't know, this is my time to tell you. Okay. So Gallows Hill is about this woman named Margot Hull, who actually comes back to her family home. Now you would think, okay, she's back home. Maybe this is a good thing. No, it's not. Margot Hull comes back home to Gallows Hill. She hasn't been there since she was 8 years old. And since she was 8 years old, she also has not had any contact with her mother or her father. She's been living with her grandmother until her grandmother passed away, and then she was an adult and she lived on her own. She gets a phone call from a guy named Mr. Kent. Or Cant, Mr. Cant, K-A-N-T though, not C-A-N-T, haha, that she has to come back because her parents actually died. They both died in the middle of the night of a heart attack. Now, she finds that really interesting that they both died together at the same time of a heart attack, and they're young, they're in their very early 50s. She suspects that something else might have happened, but she doesn't know anybody, so she doesn't really know who she can talk to or confide in whatsoever. So she gets there and she finds out that she owns Gallows Hill. Gallows Hill was her home from the time she was 8 years old. She has absolutely no memory of this property or of her parents whatsoever. When she was, I hear sirens, when she left, when she was told to leave as a child, she lost all contact with her parents. They never reached out to her, never sent a birthday card, even after she became an adult. So she didn't know what Gallows Hill was. Gallows Hill is a house, but it's also an estate. And on the estate and on the grounds is a winery. It is her family's winery. They've owned it. Members of her family have owned it all the way back since the 1700s. It's extremely profitable. So she has money, which is something she never had her whole life. She didn't have a trust fund or anything like that set up. She lived a really normal life. And she finds out that she inherited this property, and she decides, I don't know what to do. I've never owned anything before. This is a really lucrative property. I don't even drink wine. How am I going to do this? But she agrees, you know what? I'll stay here on the property for 1 month. She said, within 4 weeks, I should understand more about what the business is. Hold on. I hear the sirens. They're coming. I hear them, yeah. And they're gone. Okay. So she said within 4 weeks, I should have a really good idea of what this is and what it's not, and if I want to sell it, or if I can stay here and continue to make this business extremely profitable. Well, she decides to stay, but nothing goes the way she exactly expects. She also decided to stay to also learn about her family, learn who they were, what they were like, and why they gave her away, which she doesn't understand. And the only person that can kind of give her a little bit of information is Mr. Cant, who had called her to come there. He is the property manager, and he's been with them for 30 years. So she decides that's enough time to figure everything out. What she doesn't know is Gallows Hill and her family have some not so pleasant things in its past, and her parents didn't exactly die from natural causes as was suspected, which she kind of already thought probably didn't happen. She lives there and she starts to realize weird things are happening, noises in the middle of the night. Her parents' death isn't adding up the way it should. Strange occurrences. She was also, when she was 8 years old, she had lots of scars all over her body, and it was never told as to how. She finds an old VHS tape talking about do not go out at night, Margot, never go out at night. They come at night. And it's like, what the fuck is that? It's really creepy. It's so freaking good. I don't want to give too much away, obviously, and if I keep talking, I really will, I swear. But it is such a good book. Darcy Coates does such a good job. I mean, she always does. I love the character of Margot a lot. I really love Witchety. I think I'm saying that right. The woman that comes and cleanses the property. I really like her. I really like Mr. Cantalot. I thought it was done really well. I thought the book was interesting. I thought the plot was interesting. Now, is it horror? It most definitely is. It's horror. It's scary. It's creepy. It has every kind of vibe that you want. There's blood. There's little bits of gore. There's a really good mystery attached to it, which I feel like all good horror books should have, like a why. And there's a really good why as to why this is all happening, why this book is what it is. The audiobook I thought was absolutely amazing. Like I said, her writing, Darcy Coates, amazing. I highly recommend it for October, but I recommend you check out her books whenever you can because they're so good. This book actually, and the Carol Haunt that I read previously during my October reading, those are both free on Kindle right now if you have Kindle Unlimited. So I highly, highly suggest you check it out because it is so good. It was such a good reading experience. Well, everybody, that is it for this week. That's all I got. That's all I got for you guys. But I'm really excited to come back next week and we'll talk about more books. We're almost done with October. How did that happen? Literally, how did that happen? How did we get towards the end already? It's insane to me to think about. I'm actually going away this weekend and I plan to get some reading done in the car. And I actually do know what I'm reading next. It's either called The Floating Staircase or Floating Staircase. I messed this up a lot. That is my cat behind me, my black cat, Shadow. Hi, Shadow. But I am super excited to read that book. It's supposed to be really good. It has really good reviews. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you like all these books or you're going to check them out. And if you don't like them, then tell me something else that you really like. What is a horror book that you recommend that I check out? Because even though October is approaching the end, I read horror books year round, so it doesn't really matter the season for me. I am super duper duper excited to see what you guys think about this reading. I almost said vlog. That's not it. Video. There we go. Say video. But hopefully you guys like it. And I cannot wait to see you guys next Friday for my next video. I hope to find you guys next time happy, healthy, and of course, reading.